Kojo, thanks for dropping by. Spring has sprung. I've missed my opportunity to repot some of my orchids, mainly due to a problem with my back. I've twisted and injured my back, so any sort of lifting is out of the question. And my bonsai media is all over the place. There's some round in the carport, and it's on the floor. It would mean bending down to pick it up. It's too big a risk. But what I can do is a bit of pruning, and in this case getting the wire off. This is my Kojo-no-Mai, and this needs to be pruned. I've decided I'm not going to do a true bonsai with this tree. It lends itself to being a bonsai just by the way it grew naturally. It's got twists and turns on it. You know, it is a bonsai looking tree, but I want this to bloom. And to get it to bloom I need to generate spurs, so I need to stop extensions and get these spurs, you know, where the blooms form. Although on this tree some of the blooms have come out on the end of last year's extensions, so it's difficult to know really how to prune this, but I've got crossing branches and branches coming out from parts of the trunk which I don't want, and the other thing I wanted to do is get the moss off. I was just going to say a little wire brush is good for this. I was hoping this toothbrush would be good enough. I did have a really old stiff toothbrush, but I can't find it, so this is a brand new one. And it's not going to get this moss off. I need a little wire brush, and I can't find that. I did have one once, but we need to get the moss off. Doesn't do the trunk any good. It does seem to be doing the job, just about. Not doing it very well, but it is sort of doing it. If it doesn't get it off, it's killing it. And then the other thing I want to do is, hang on, I need another tool. I need my rake. This pot is flat, and when I water it, the water runs off the pot and takes half of the grit off with it. So I'm just going to rake it so that the grit comes away from the edge. It won't look as neat and pretty, because obviously that was put on after it was repotted, but it means, you know, we're coming round to the time of year where I might have to start watering. I certainly haven't yet. I haven't watered since probably October. That's so much rain, it's just no need. It's as simple as that. There just isn't a need. I mean, I use a different media to what a lot of people use a media that's got a ridiculous amount of drainage, which is brilliant for growing good root systems, but you have to water a lot. Whereas I don't use exactly a garden tub mix, you know, which is very, very fibrous. I do have a lot of grit in my mix, but I also have, there's some John Innes number 2 in there, which is dirt basically, and there's some multi-purpose compost, which is fibrous. I put a bit of orchid bark in there. It's quite a mixture, and lots of grit. So it is free draining, but it does hold moisture, and as a consequence I don't need to water it that often. And I'm hoping that by dragging that in away from the edge, when I water it, it doesn't all run over the edge quite so bad. It'll end up washing it down there anyway. And the other thing I wanted to do is, I don't know how easy this wire is going to come off. It's quite thick wire. I'm hoping to be able to unwind it rather than have to cut it, because it's reusable. I'm all for recycling. And I mean, wire I suppose is relatively cheap, but you know, this is pretty thick wire, so it would be nice to reuse it. So I was just working out what's going on here, because there's two pieces of wire going across each other. Now this hasn't bit in very much. I thought this would have bitten in quite badly, but it hasn't. I'm surprised. But that's, I mean, that's good. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tree that has gnarly bark. So if there are some wire marks on this one, it's not the end of the world. On some deciduous trees, it could ruin it. It could absolutely ruin it. Simply because you get a smooth bark tree like a beech, especially like the Japanese beech, the grey beech, it could totally ruin it. And it's easily done. Easily done. But you just got to keep your eye on it. The problem is, if you've got a vigorous tree, like, you know, this one's coming into full growth now, the leaves are coming out, the branches are going to swell. This is not a good time to have wire on a relatively vigorous tree. It's going to bite in. Now, on a gnarly old pine, that might not be the end of the world. It might even add to it, but certainly on smooth barked deciduous trees, you could ruin your tree, and it can take years, if ever, to grow out again. So it's better not to do it in the first place. There's more wire on here than I thought. I'll take that off camera. This is not something for you to see. But what I wanted to do was it's looking out for branches that are crossing or have extended beyond where I would like. And because this is an alternate grower, buds alternate, yeah? You can select which direction of growth you want the shoot to take. So you can guide it. You like this one, that goes right across the trunk. That one is a branch too many. Don't need that one. So that's it. It's just a matter of going around looking for branches that don't seem to fit the pattern and overlap, and any dead bits, they can come off. So yeah, that's all it is. It's just a spring trim. And select which direction of growth I'd like the branch to take. There's a bit of dye back there, but not too much, given that my trees get no winter protection at all. They get nothing. They get left on the bench to fend for themselves. And like I said, they don't get looked at, they don't get watered, they get literally left to fend for themselves. And I haven't lost a tree. So you can fuss too much. I mean, if you like fussing, then fuss, by all means, but it's not something I enjoy. These are the things I wanted to look at. Got branches coming out from the trunk here that are not conducive to seeing the trunk line. So they need to come off, basically. So these are larger branches, so I've got my branch cutters out. These branches that are just coming out of the trunk, they're not wanted. So we'll just snip them off. Yeah, I was surprised how much bloom I actually got on this. I wasn't expecting any at all, but we got some. Anyway, so that's all I'm doing, is I'm going to bring the bonsai in one at a time, tidy up around the base of the trunk with the moss and stuff like that. I mean, we've had such a wet, relatively mild winter that the moss has done really well this year, so most of the bases are covered in moss. Do with getting that off. Doesn't do the bark any good. And just literally tidy up the base so that when I do start watering, the water doesn't go all over the place and wash all the grit off. and any wire that's lying around that I don't want will take off. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. You don't need to see all of it, it's just in principle. It's the time of year now, it is spring. My maple buds are swelling and in some cases starting to open. This is coming into leaf nicely. In a couple of weeks' time I'll be looking at my conifers to do some bud selection and possible thinning out of branches again, crossing branches that break the skyline, as I call it. It's that time of year to be just doing a bit of work, and while you're doing that little bit of work you get to check your trees over. You can be looking for rotten parts, you know, any diseases that have got in that are obvious, and now's a good time to deal with them. So I missed a lovely crossing branch there. There we go. Anyway, so that's what I'm up to. It's just to tidy up, get the bases tidy, and yeah, it's time to start work. I really wanted to do some repotting. I may have missed my chance. So be it. They'll have to wait another year. When you listen to Peter Chan walking down his bonsai walk at Wisley Gardens, and he's sort of looking at a tree and says, that one hasn't been repotted for 10 years. It's doing okay, you know. The time it might not be doing okay is if you forced it into the tiniest pot possible and there's no media left, the roots have eaten it. It's just a solid mass of roots. It's difficult to hydrate a tree when it's like that. The water is not getting chance to get into the roots. It's just going straight through the bottom of the pot or over the top of the pot. So you know, you've still got to be able to water your trees and hold enough moisture for the roots to hydrate. Especially in warm weather, in the sunshine, it takes quite a bit of water at the base to get up through the roots and get into the tree and stop the leaves dehydrating. So that's what I'm up to today. Not a lot, but hopefully, Gavin has got his trees, so hopefully he'll do an unboxing or at least have a look at the trees on video on his channel. Not another bonsai channel, which is his channel name. But yeah, his trees arrived, so it was a nice quick delivery. They weren't in the box too long. And so he's got some new trees to do something with. First thing he'll need to do is get them in pots, because they went bare rooted. Well, not bare rooted, but you know, out of their pots. I didn't knock all the media off, I left them with media. So anyway, it's bonsai time. This channel is a combination of my garden and my bonsai, which live in the garden. But the two types of videos are very distinctive. They've both got different looks about them. So even though they're both on the same channel, if you're not interested in the gardening stuff, it's obvious which is the bonsai videos. And again, vice versa. If you've got no interest in the bonsai, you can see which ones are the gardening videos. And if you've got no interest on either, what on earth are you doing here? But those who are interested, nice to see you. See you again. There will be bonsai videos now a lot more frequently. It's that time of year. Okay, I've taken a lot off, crossing branches pointing in the wrong direction. It's opened up the tree a lot more. Light will get into all parts of the tree now. There won't be any shaded parts. And there's still, yeah, I can still see some bits that are overcrowded, I'll call them. So I missed a bit there. So the idea is now that, missed a dead bit there. It's actually, it's got life there, but this bit's dead. So we'll have that off. So the idea is now that growth over here, I'd like to come back towards the trunk a bit. It may do that. It does push out buds from the trunk area. This branch needs to fan out, thicken up a bit. The top is nice and open now, and what I'll do is I'll stop any long extensions part way through the season, probably about June. We'll come back and any long extensions can be taken back. And the idea will be that the tree will form some spurs on the older parts of the wood. So what was last year's wood becomes old wood, and in places like this we should get spurs, which means hopefully next year we get an awful lot more blooms. Now, in doing this pruning I have taken some blooms off, but they were starting to go anyway. They were at the end of their time, and hopefully now the tree can put on plenty of growth and it can be tuned to actually form not direct pads like in the traditional term, but a general paddy type shape. I know what I mean, even though the expression's not very good. But I still want the centre of the tree quite open. I quite like this, the way that the tree snakes in two different directions. So I don't want any branches coming out of this area here. But from anywhere from here upwards, even this one, I keep looking at that one thinking, shall I take it off? Because it's on an outside bend. You could do being over here. You can't bend these. If you try bending these, they snap. So it'll have to stay where it is. Anyway, that's one done. A few more to go. See you next time.